So let's bring up like a major moral issue, which is abortion, between the choice of a woman and the life of a child. Like, how do you determine which one is right based on moral absolutes?
Okay, great example. Abortion. If abortion is simply removing excess skin, I think it's hard to make a case that abortion is wrong. If abortion is murdering a child, I think the majority of us would agree that murdering children is not good. So the first thing you have to do is you have to answer the question, what is abortion? Is it simply removing excess skin? Nothing wrong with that. I peel my calluses, you cut your fingernails and toenails all the time. Nothing wrong with removing excess skin. Or is abortion terminating a human life motivated by inconvenience? Then, if you conclude that abortion is murdering a child, then you've got to ask yourself, is murder wrong? Now, I am convinced to the root of my being that murder is absolutely evil. And therefore, I don't care how many people want to tell me that murder is right, I'm convinced it's absolutely evil. So that's how I think through that. Does that make any sense?
Okay, sure. But I'm still kind of not convinced that there are absolute morals. So, because the idea of God fails when there is no absolute morals. So, how can you convince me that there's absolute morals?
All right. The way that I reach the point of being convinced that there are absolute morals is to try and live out moral relativism.
Okay.
If you believe that morality is relative, live it out.
Okay.
Which means, when someone steals your money,
Right.
don't look at them and say, you should not have stolen my money. Instead say to them, from my perspective, it's wrong that you stole my money, but obviously from your perspective, it was just fine for you to steal my money. I'm not absolutely right. You're not absolutely wrong. It's all relative. Get married. And when your wife looks you in the face and says something very cutting, very mean, don't look at her and say, you know, that was really mean. Instead say, well, from my perspective, that was not a very nice thing to say, but I realize that it's all relative, and therefore, what will be, will be.
I'm going to disagree with that because I don't think relativism as a laws of moral is a call to action. More or less, I think it's more of like a sense of awareness where you say people have different moral values. However, that does not necessarily mean I have to stand up like that. I have to defend other people's moral views. If my moral views conflict with other people's moral views, I can still very much say I don't agree with you, and I'm going to act up in a way that I don't agree with you. That doesn't mean relativism is wrong. It's just saying I disagree with you.
Sure, I agree. I'm right with you. You're right. A moral relativist can look at someone else and say, I don't agree with you. But what a moral relativist cannot say is, what you say is really absolutely wrong.
Right.
Instead, a moral relativist has to acknowledge, whatever my position is regarding murder, child molestation, and rape, the opposite position of whatever it is I hold is equally valid. The opposite is equally valid, because it's all relative.
Right. But that doesn't mean I have to stand up for it. Like, I could still say it's equally valid, but since it disagrees with my own, I'm going to fight for my own values. And that does not necessarily mean my morals are absolute. I'm just fighting for what I believe in.
Yeah, well, why would you fight for a relative moral?
Well, my own morals. I'm not fighting for relative morals. I'm fighting for my own morals.
Yeah, but if you believe that your own morals are relative, why would you want to fight for them?
Because things that I consider immoral are not beneficial to me. They cause me pain and they cause me suffering, so I'm obviously going to try to defend myself for self-preservation.
Yeah, but obviously morality goes beyond just self-preservation. Obviously, if your wife is mean to you, it's not going to destroy you, okay? You're still going to live. All right, so why on earth would you confront your wife with, that is not a good way to have a relationship. To speak to each other in such a demeaning, degrading way is not very good. So why would you try and push that? Isn't that rather arrogant?
Sure.
So, if you honestly believe that all morality is relative, then someone might make a mistake in murdering somebody, but it's just a mistake. Now, maybe you want to imprison those people who make mistakes, but it's all relative, so it's not something you should be getting too upset about.
Well, I mean, if I value human life, and if that's my own morals, and if somebody murders somebody that I value, that's obviously going to affect me and causing me to act in a way.
Why do you value human life? What's the basis of the value of human life?
Because I'm choosing to value them.
Good. So you're choosing to value human life, and I'm choosing to help the communist dream come about. And in order to do that, I've got to slaughter a few million Russians in order to kick out the czars and have the communist dream, which will provide the most amount of good for the most amount of people. So that's my trip. I'm not right, you're not right, I'm not wrong, you're not wrong. It's all relative from your worldview.
Right, but I can still fight for what I believe. That doesn't mean I have to stand up for what you're doing just because it's relative.
Well, yeah, you can fight for what you believe, or you can just lie down. It really doesn't matter.
Okay, but I'm still going to choose to fight. So then if I still choose to fight for what I believe, and thus I overcome whatever you believe, then does what I believe become morally absolute, or does it
No, it doesn't become morally absolute. That's a great point. So you and I disagree morally, and we go to war.
Okay.
And one of us wins, and the other one dies. So now the question is morality defined by power? You've won, I'm dead. So does that mean that right and justice are defined by who wins the war? If the Nazis would have won World War II, would that make anti-Semitism good and right?
I mean, from their perspective, there was nothing wrong with it. From my perspective, there is something wrong with it. So, I mean, we're still just disagreeing.
Exactly. But the question is when we say that anti-Semitism is wrong, is that just a biased perspective? Or are we tying into reality that anti-Semitism really is absolutely wrong?
I think it's a biased perspective.
Exactly. That's what the position of relativist is. You think it's a biased perspective. I don't think you really can live that out. Let's say you have a little child, and let's say that someone abuses that child. I don't think you're going to be willing to say, well, from my perspective, that's wrong, but I'm only relatively correct, so I understand that it might be right what you did when you abused my child. I think you're going to act as if the abuse of my child was absolutely evil and perverted, and I'm going to go after you with everything I can.
I mean, I'm still realizing that person's moral values said that there's nothing wrong with raping a child, but since they contradicted my own moral views, and since it was my child, thus I'm going to go with everything I have against it. It's not because I'm saying what I believe is absolute. It's saying what I believe and what you believe conflict each other, and you cause me an inconvenience. So thus I'm going to go after you.
Right. But I think that the passion with which you go after me for abusing your child contradicts your relativism. I think the passion that you go after me with when I abuse your child communicates that your child really does have worth and value, and when I abused your child, that was absolutely evil. I think if you're going to be a consistent moral relativist, you're going to have to be less committed to your position, because you realize that your position and the position opposite of your position are equally valid.
I mean, but then it would probably be different for me if it was some random child that I did not know. If I heard a story of a child that was physically abused, then I'd probably be pretty upset about it. But if it was my child, then that changes things.
Right. Which I think is the argument of the Darwinists, right? That the reason you will protect your child is simply because of a biological tie.
Yeah.
And I would insist baloney. I would insist that although the biological tie is definitely real and definitely there is more to my love for my child than simply a biological drive. There is the ability to love. I think the proof of that is the ability to be a deadbeat dad. I don't have to be a loving dad. I can be a deadbeat dad, and I can be abusive if I want to of my children. Or I can choose to be a loving father. So I don't think I have to love my children.